All right, Johnny, the Halos start a 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals at home, and you and I are going to take a look back at the players that played for the Angels and for the Royals. Plus, we're going to look at some of those big money contracts the Angels handed out since 2010, and we're going to wonder, we're actually going to ask out loud, were any of these contracts any good? You're Locked On with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Those listening on the audio side, you can rate and review the pod. And if you're watching on the video side, you can subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops. And today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them the boys from Locked On Angels sent you.
Hey, what's going on? Thank you for joining us for this edition of Locked On Angels. You got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
We're two lifelong fans of the Angels, and we've been around enough to know that there are good times and bad times, and we've seen it all, Mike, and everything in between. Is that right?
we just need to say, everybody calm down. I know that somebody tweeted at us last night and said, dumpster fire! Right? Listen, it's all going to be okay, right?
Yes.
It's all going to be okay. Shush.
Let us comfort you. Let us calm you down.
It's going to
be
like,
right. What's that sleep app that you listen to when Headspace? We're like Headspace, but for baseball.
Yeah, everything's going to be fine. Listen, you can win 4 or 5, and then, we struggled. We struggled a bit last night, but we still have 2 more games, and I don't want us to fall back into what we were stuck in for those games as we lost, lost 17 of 2, right? Like of 19. I can't even think about it because it's
blocked
so
it out of your
frustrating
memory.
to me. I mean, I've slept since then, but it was a 19-game stretch where we were really terrible. We sucked, and I know last night was frustrating, but we can't get too far ahead of ourselves, right? Like, this team is showing some life, and I think that what we saw last night, specifically from Noah Syndergaard, wasn't too bad, right? He pitched really, really well. He struggled a bit, but he kept the Halos in the game, and I know that people are going to complain about that 8th inning, John, but I'm glad he was in there. I think that that's the thing that we've been fighting for, and it was just a good hitter, and a pitch that he hit out when Salvador Perez hit that home run that put the Angels up, or put the Royals up 5-2 at that point.
Well, let me tell you why. For as much as you and I have complained about a quick hook on this show, especially from Joe Madden, and we've seen a little bit from Phil Nevin as well, can I tell you why I actually was kind of annoyed with the fact that he was back out there for the 8th inning?
Okay.
Because there were several jams that Noah Syndergaard got himself into throughout his 7 innings.
Sure.
And while he was able to pitch out of it, he clearly was having some trouble and had a lot of traffic on the base paths. And so it was like, hey, if he had gone 7 strong and the game stayed where it was, I would have been happy with that. I would have been satisfied with that.
Yeah.
And so to see him come back out in the 8th inning, I wasn't frustrated, but I could see where the wheels were beginning to fall off, and he wasn't going to make it through that 8th inning. And of course, it's against Salvador Perez, who he did something really interesting in the 8th inning, the 9th inning. It was the 9th inning because David McKinnon was up. Actually, Noah Syndergaard was batting for some reason. No, I'm just kidding. David McKinnon was up, and it was a full count. And I saw Salvador Perez stand up, timeout, wave his hands. Then he looked out to the outfield and was waving his hand for everybody to stop shifting to the left on David McKinnon. And you know why? Because the very next pitch he set up outside, McKinnon hit it the opposite way, which probably would have been a hit, but it was caught. And props to David McKinnon for going the other way.
Right.
But Salvador Perez set that play up. And that's the sign of a experienced veteran catcher knowing what he's doing. And he's saying, hey guys, don't shift. You play straight up because we're going to pitch this one outside, and I'm going to set up outside. He's either going to swing and miss, or if he does make contact, I want you guys to be there. I really respect Salvador Perez and the way he was able to make that move. And again, he was the one who got the 8th inning home run against Noah Syndergaard that put the Royals up 5-2. And then Jaime Barria gave up a home run later on to Hunter Dozier. That guy was just a menace last night, Hunter Dozier.
Yeah.
And but however, we saw Ward get his 11th home run, and then he also knocked in both runs. So it was the one run that we got was on his home run. The next one was another hit that he got. But nobody else really factored into this game, Mike, as far as hitting. And when we did have runners on, it was like, all right, we got some people on base. And then you had the usual Kurt Suzuki and Andrew Velasquez, who did get a hit, by the way. And it was the kind of hit he should be getting. And then we even saw Brandon Marsh move down to the 8th spot just to have some power down in the bottom of this order.
Yes.
But it actually kind of was a reverse jinx because he was just as bad as our regular 7 through 8 have been. Yeah. He was great in the outfield, though. Did you see that diving catch he made? That guy is a highlight reel. He better be in Gold Glove contention by the end of the year. I'm going to be upset. I'll be very mad.
I'm going to be so upset. He has 6 defensive runs saved so far this year. So he is really playing well. And I got to say, I know that Marsh didn't hit well, but I like that move, him down at the bottom, because it does balance the lineup a bit more. Now, here's what I'm going to advocate for, and we've talked about it before. I know that Ward had a great game at the top of the lineup, but I think he needs to hit cleanup because Matt Duffy, as much as I've been a fan of Duffy, he left a lot of people on base, and he cannot be the guy in the middle of the lineup. He's not intimidating. He's not going to get a hit. I actually would advocate for Duffy to be lower in the lineup and help balance that lineup even more and possibly move Marsh to the top of the lineup, because I think that that's going to help you to have more consistent hitting all the way through, although I love that Phil was messing with things. But again, it's an offensive problem here. And even in the series against the Mariners, in those 5 games, we only scored 16 runs, and Mike Trout, I think, scored 15 of them, right? Like he was the one that just carried the entire team. We only averaged 3 runs a game. And so it's an offensive problem here. And it's why I don't think that we can sit on this lineup for any longer. And Perry was interviewed and talked with the media yesterday. And he even said, like, hey, we're working some things out, but I hate the ambiguity that GMs give. Somebody actually responded to Sam Blum tweeting out what Perry said and said, it's a different face, but the same GM in the way that they're talking to the media. And that can be frustrating, but I wouldn't sit on this for any longer. I would go and bring up another offensive player to help this lineup find its rhythm, because as you've seen, if Ward, Ohtani, and Trout do not perform, this team will lose.
Well, I think that Perry Minasian is not the kind of person to sit on his hands, especially this season. And we've seen that with Pujols getting let go. We saw it with Upton being let go. He's not somebody who's going to hang on to the current situation and just let it ride. He did a little bit of that in 2021 because we were that was where we were at that point. And there wasn't any use in pursuing better options. But I think in 2022, while it's still June, the middle of June, almost technically summertime, I think Perry Minasian will make some moves. And I don't think that he is going to sit on this situation any longer, because the holes there are obvious. The holes are plain and clear to everybody who's a fan, or if you're following this team for a long time, you know what the holes are. And especially with Rendon going down, now you have even more holes happening here. And the problem is it's great to see people like David McKinnon come up and be part of this team, because I think that he could bring some life to the offense. But the problem with that is that he's a backup to Jared Walsh. He's not an everyday starter. And unless he figures out how to play third base, that's not going to happen. By the way, Taylor Ward is not moving to third base. I looked it up, and he hasn't played there since about 2018. So that's not going to happen.
He's not moving to third. He's not moving to second. He's not going to play catcher. I know that we like to be a GM for MLB The Show, but in the major leagues, right? We can't do that in the major leagues. You can probably mess with their numbers on the show, but you can't mess with their numbers in the major leagues. I'm excited because Reed Detmer's on the mound today. I'm a huge fan, and he's been pretty consistent, and so I hope that he actually can perform really well today. And then, of course, on Wednesday, Shohei Ohtani is pitching, and that's the day they're celebrating the 2002 World Series team. So there'll be some excitement in the stadium, and hopefully we can take the next 2 games because, as we've said from the very beginning since joining this show a little over 2 months ago, Jonathan,
Hey,
we have been saying since the beginning, like, we have to win series. We have to win series. So the next 2 games are pivotal, I think, for the Angels, and I would love to see them knock those 2 games out.
Yeah, Reed Detmers for me needs to go more than 4 innings like he's been doing.
Yeah.
He's been going 4 1/3, 4 2/3, and that all comes down to pitch count and pitch management. You can't have those long at bats. You've got to get guys out rather quickly, and the defense was pretty solid on Monday night, and so I really believe that if you can rely on your infield and outfield a little bit more, you're going to get many more outs than trying to strike everybody out all the time. So hopefully Reed Detmers can get past the 5th inning and into the 6th and hopefully into the 7th. He's done it before. He's got a no-hitter. And so let's get some longevity out of Reed Detmers tonight against those Royals.
Well, you mentioned Rendon, and it got us thinking about all of the big contracts that the Angels have handed out in the last 10 to 12 years. So coming up on Locked On Angels, John and I are going to look at those contracts, and we're going to tell you which ones were good and which ones were not so good. And there's one contract that Johnny will fight for, and he'll tell you why it's actually a really good contract. But first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by RockAuto.com. At rockauto.com, you have access to all the parts your car will ever need, from brake parts to tail lamps to motor oil to even new carpet. rockauto.com has it all. And here's the good news. It's a family-owned business, and they've been serving those do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. And because they're family-owned, they understand budgets, which is why Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer, especially you. So if you're working on your car, go to rockauto.com and see all the parts your car or truck will ever need. And when you do, make sure you write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. That way they know that John and I sent you to them. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Go to rockauto.com today.
We want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now, we know that we're in this series with the Royals right now. So, Mike, you and I want to take a little bit of time to look back at some of those players who played for both the Royals and the Angels. So we've got a list of names here. And of course, I think that we would be remiss to not start with none other than Mark Gubicza.
The Glubaza actually pitched for both the Royals and the Angels. He was mainly a Royal. He's in their Hall of Fame. And I think he's second or third in wins on that team. He was 132 and 136 with the Royals with a 3.91 ERA in 382 games. He had one really great year. I believe it was 87 maybe or 88, where he won 20 games and won the Cy Young. He only pitched 2 games for us, and he was 0-1 with a 25 ERA. And so that was at the tail end of his career. And that's kind of typically what happens with the Angels when they sign big-time pitchers like that. We get them way past their prime, but lucky for us, he's a part of our organization, and he's on the TV side and has some really great insight. So we've grown to really love him because he actually really knows the game really well. And in fact, I love listening to him because he'll say, hey, they're going to throw you a curveball right here. And last night when David McKinnon was at the plate, that's exactly what happened. And then he said, okay, watch for the fastball. And then McKinnon hit a rocket to right field, but because of the shift, they were right there to make the catch. So the Glubaza, Mark Gubicza, is the first player that we thought of that played for the Angels and also played for the Royals.
That's right. And you probably got a better look at this guy more than I did. But how about Gary Gaetti? Had an 814 OPS, 61 home runs, 199 RBIs in 309 games for the Royals. Now, when he was with the Angels, he had a 636 OPS, 30 home runs, 118 RBIs. And he actually won a World Series with the Twins in 1987.
Yeah, he is, I think, one of the first examples of the Angels signing a big free agent and then underperforming. Because when we got him, he had some pretty good seasons before that. We had him for a couple of years. Then we traded him to Kansas City. And then in Kansas City, he had a year where he hit like 35 home runs. And I remember it was in my teen years because it was mid-90s. And I remember watching him going, how come you didn't do this for us? And so I just want you to know, I've been an Angel fan for a long time. And if you've just jumped on the Angel train and you see these free agent signings and they don't really pan out, it's not unusual for the Angels to have that happen to them because it's been happening for as long as I can remember. And some of you have been watching the Angels longer than me, and you can even attest to that as well. We can go way back to like Reggie Jackson, who had one really great year for the Angels and then was just terrible after that. But Gary Gaetti is one of those examples of he was going to be great at third base for us, and then he was a part of that 92 team, John.
Yeah.
The 92 team was terrible. I think Gary actually led the team in home runs with 12. I remember that team because we just couldn't hit and we just couldn't pitch. We ended up losing 90 plus games that year. And I was 12 when that happened. And I still remember, it's still like I'm going to therapy for it because it was awful. But that's
so what
why
you're
I
saying,
remember Gary.
What you're saying is 30 years later in 2022 is not nearly as bad as what was going on in 92.
92 was the dumpster fire. Let's just be honest about that. Here's a name that you would know, Johnny. Kendrys Morales.
Kendrys Morales, a.k.a. formerly known as Kendry Morales. Remember that? How he was Kendry and they got his name wrong when he came over. So he's actually Kendrys Morales. Now,
he's not two people?
That's right. Now, let me talk about his stats here. An 823 OPS, 79 home runs, 265 RBIs in 464 games with the Angels. Now, if you remember, he got hurt rounding the bases after a walk-off grand slam in a day game, and he jumped on home plate, and all of the Angel fans hold their collective breath ever since that game whenever a player comes home after a walk-off and jumps on home plate. We're like, don't get hurt. And that was a huge bummer because he was on a tear that season. He didn't come back until 2012. And that also happened to be the year that Albert Pujols was signed. So Kendrys did a lot of DHing that year, but it almost makes you wonder if they were uncertain about what was going to happen with Kendrys because they did the Pujols signing, because Kendrys was playing first base over there.
Yeah.
And of course, when his tenure was up with us, he ended up on the Royals team in 2015, actually helped them win a World Series. In fact, he had an 821 OPS, 52 home runs, 199 RBIs in 312 games for those Royals. I know he had a couple of trips to a couple of other teams, but honestly, that Royals team that he was part of, that World Series team was huge and kind of the offensive boost that they needed because they were playing every other aspect of the game very well in terms of speed, in terms of defense. That outfield was insane back in 2014, 2015. They were defensive marvels. So he did have the most playing time with the Angels, but certainly paid off for him to go to the Royals when he did. How about one of my personal favorites, like a fan favorite, Johnny G Vitello.
I love Johnny because he was just a ball of energy for us. And I can hear our former PA announcer say his name every time he comes up. Johnny Giavotella, right? And Johnny actually really didn't have a starting job prior to coming to the Angels.
Yeah.
His best years was with the Halos, and he actually was really good. He kind of had a David Fletcher-esque vibe to him.
It was the prequel to David Fletcher.
He was great, man. And Johnny G, he was fun to watch. His stats with the Angels for a second baseman, kind of a light hitting second baseman, 680 OPS, 10 home runs, 80 RBIs. And then with Kansas City, he had a 612 OPS, 4 home runs, and 45 RBIs. But keep in mind, with Kansas City, he was really a guy that would come off the bench. And with the Angels, he did start a lot. And I enjoyed him. He wasn't that impactful for us getting, to the playoffs or anything like that, but he was just a whole lot of fun to watch. But I think the most famous Angel and Kansas City Royal player is the one and only Wally World, Wally Joyner, John.
That's right. Yeah, Wally Joyner with the Angels. Listen to this: an 801 OPS, 117 home runs, 532 RBIs with the Halos. Now, when he went over to the Royals in KC, had an 805 OPS, 44 home runs, 271 RBIs with the Royals. Now, he's an Angels hero because he left at 29 years old because the Angels had two prospects in the minors, Lee Stevens and JT Snow. Obviously, JT Snow ended up being the better of the two. One of my favorites when I was a kid because JT Snow was a lefty and I'm a lefty. And so all I knew of baseball was that guy's like me. And so, and JT Snow actually ended up with the Giants. He was part of the World Series.
He was
not winning team, but he was part of that series against us, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
He was the one that saved Dusty Baker's son at home plate.
That's right.
when
When
they
he
were
ran off.
scoring. Remember that? And then his son was crying in the dugout. But
And
it
now
was an
his son is a
interesting
major
move.
leaguer.
Yeah, it was an interesting move to get rid of Wally because he was 29 years old and he was the hero in Anaheim.
Yeah.
We hadn't had somebody that people were hyped on and excited about for a long time that was a homegrown guy.
Mhm.
And they did make a move because Lee Stevens was coming up. Now, he played terrible for the Angels, ended up being pretty good for some other teams. He played in Montreal for a while, which ended up becoming the Nationals. But JT Snow actually really had a great start. And then we traded him away mid-90s. Which was a bummer because I really liked JT Snow, switch hitting first baseman. I remember when he first came up, he had a run where he was hitting a ton of home runs and, in fact, was leading the league in home runs. And as an Angel fan in the mid-90s, we were shocked by that because we had not actually had a player that had developed outside of Tim Salmon. But he was kind of the springboard for some of those guys because after him came Salmon and Edmonds and Anderson and Erstad and all of those guys. And so it was fun while he was there. He had a great defensive glove. He kind of reminds me a bit of Jared Walsh. Jared Walsh has some similarities in how he approaches offense and defense. So those are some of the names that we have recognized as Angels and Royals, and it's fun to go back. I don't know if we missed anybody. I can't think of anybody that we missed, but if you are an Angel fan or a Royal fan and you know of some names, hit us up because we would love to know those names.
Absolutely. Going back to Gary Gaetti and him being a not a great free agent signing, are you telling me that this happened before Artie Moreno? I thought Artie was the problem here. What happened?
It happened before. It's the Angel curse, Jonathan.
So getting rid of Artie will not solve the Angels curse. I fully understand, got it, noted, and written down.
Well, I feel a bit cursed because our friends at Built Bar sent us some new Built Bars, the mud pie flavor. John, did you get yours?
I certainly did. They were delicious. Did you like yours?
I didn't get to eat mine because I have 3 kids and my oldest actually cook the Built Bar. And so I haven't had a chance to eat that. So you know what I did? I made her buy me a whole brand new mix
box.
You
go. There
so
you go.
I just got my notification. I'm holding my phone up. If you're listening on the YouTube side, you can see it. I just got my notification that says your Built Bars are on the way, Johnny.
Well done, sir.
I'm excited to taste the mud pie bar because you've said it's really, really good.
It is really good and even better. I mean, it's a new flavor that's a bar and a puff, so you can get it either in a regular bar or the marshmallow puff, which is also very good. It's rich whipped cream and chocolate mousse smothered in 100% real chocolate, topped with cookies and cream crumble, which is how you're going to get me on board any day of the week is cookies and cream. But you need to hurry because that's right. You got to hurry though, because the mud pie bar and the mud pie puff are only available for a limited time. But not only do these bars and puffs taste good, they're actually good for you. They have 16 grams of protein. Their mud pie bars are packed with 150 calories and 8 grams of sugar. So you don't have to worry about eating these because they're good for you. They're made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently, provides a ton of health benefits. So if you want to get your hands on the mud pie bars and puffs, go to built.com today and order your box. And when you do, use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at built.com. Get yourself the mud pie Built Bar or puff today.
Well, we know that Anthony Rendon is out. He's having wrist surgery, and there was some stories of him talking to the boys in the locker room and apologizing to them because he knows that this is frustrating for him and he knows it's frustrating for the team. But it got you and I thinking about all of those big money contracts that the Angels have handed out. And we're just going to focus on the last 12 years, because if we went for the whole history of the Angels, we would be here longer than the episode allows.
Right? A whole episode.
And so we decided to look at some of those contracts starting in 2010. And Johnny, all I want from you is, was this a good signing or was this a dumb signing? All right. So I'm going to save the one that you're going to fight for till the end. So let me start with Anthony Rendon. 7 years, $245 million. Good or not good? What do you think?
I'm still convinced it's a good signing. I know that we wanted to get pitching, and I know that we really wanted Garrett Cole. But look, at least we didn't sign Strasburg from the Nationals, because that deal, if you guys are mad about Anthony Rendon, just be glad that we didn't go after Strasburg, because I think he's pitched a total of 2 innings, 2
Yeah.
games, 2
Yeah.
innings. I don't remember, but
Something.
all of that to say, I'm not ready to give up on Rendon, and I'm annoyed as much as you are about the fact that he's hurt once again. But here's the thing. If you go back to 2020, the guy had top 10 MVP votes. He was in the running for the MVP. I know it was a short season, but that's the version of Anthony Rendon that we had expected to get. Now, I know that he's not getting any younger. He's getting older, and he's into his 30s now, and he's got 4 more years left on this contract. We thought that after hip surgery, he would be better and healthier and get back to that. And now he has this wrist thing. So that's another thing. And like I said yesterday, I hope it's not something else the next year. And let's hope that that's not the case. Let's hope that this guy can get into playing shape and not get hurt. And perhaps the Angels coaching staff can work with him a little bit better to keep him on the field, because this kind of stuff shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be this much of an issue. So 7 years, $245, expensive, but if you were going to pay for the kind of third baseman that he had been for the Nationals all those years, this is a good deal. And you know what? We didn't have a solid third baseman. We didn't have anybody over there on that corner. I know that we had Yunel Escobar for a while, and he actually had a good batting average and played okay over there. But that left side has been a problem for years. There was a time where we were trying Mark Trumbo out over there.
Yeah.
And you know what reminds me of? It reminds me of when we got David Freese from the Cardinals. We traded for him. He was part of the 2014 team and really helped us out that season. Anthony Rendon is the kind of guy that you were expecting to get, like a David Freese. Like, that was a good idea. I know it felt like a consolation prize because we didn't get Garrett Cole. And we always know that the Angels need pitching, but I still don't think Anthony Rendon was a bad deal. So a good move in my opinion.
I think that it will be a good move if he stays healthy in the next 4 years. And I think that we're going to forget about these 2 years where he's been hurt, especially if he's performing. I still think he's our Adrian Beltre. I still think that he's going to really impact our team. And so I'm still holding out hope for that. So I'm going to lean good as well.
There was a moment in Monday night's game where the ball went through Matt Duffy's glove and it went through Andrew Velazquez's glove. And I thought to myself, I think Rendon would have made that play.
Yeah.
I think he could have done it. And as much as we complained about his offense, you can't beat his defense. And I know a lot of people say, well, we're not paying him for his defense, but it's Anthony Rendon. You are paying him for his defense. You're paying him for all the amounts of runs that you're going to save. So let's move on from Rendon because I'm getting all hot and bothered over here.
Okay. Mike Trout, 12 years, $426.5 million. Good or not good?
Oh, very good. You make that deal any day of the week because he is the face of your franchise, and this is the deal that you make 9 days a week is what I meant to say. And to lock him down and shut up the doubters who are like, oh, he's going to be a Philly. Oh, he's going to be a Yankee. Like, oh, it just felt good to be like, nope, he's not.
Nope. How about Albert Pujols, 10 years, $240 million.
I made this comparison the other day. Pujols at least played games. I know he was hurt in 2013, but he had his productive seasons. In fact, 2014 was probably the best season that he had with us. And so Albert Pujols was a good deal at the time. In 2011, it seemed like a good deal, but the first 10 years did not match the back 10 years. And so we knew what we were getting in contract years 8, 9, and 10, but nobody could have predicted that the first 6 years would have been as bad as they were. But at the same time, every season he was like a 30 home run hitter for the most part. Like, he was always up there in production. Batting average was never quite the same, but as far as RBIs and home runs went, Pujols contributed in a big way. So, compared to some of these other ones, I'm going to say it's a good deal. I mean, it sucked as the way it turned out, and it sucked that it was such a long time and that it kept us from making other moves that we probably could have made. But it's an okay deal. At the end of the day, I don't know. I know it's dumb. I know it's a dumb deal. I know it's not good.
Yeah.
But would you not have signed him in 2011?
No, I would have signed him. Right.
Yeah.
I would have signed him, and you have to give him what you're going to give him. And so I think you're right. The first 6 years, it was a pretty good deal. And then the last 4 years, we knew what we were getting. We just didn't expect him to not be as great as he was. We knew that he was going to be the guy who was 21, 22, but we just didn't expect him to not be what he was. And we didn't expect not to get to the playoffs. So I think that's what we're evaluating it through, is the team just wasn't good with him around.
Yeah.
What about, I'm going to lump two together. Josh Hamilton, 5 years, 125, and Justin Upton, 5 years, 106.
Josh Hamilton had very clear signs of decline.
Yes.
Coming into the 2013 season. So we signed him in the 2012 offseason, and he started in 2013. And it was clear after the Texas Rangers series that he was part of that he was showing some signs of decline toward the end there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it wasn't just the playing on the field, it was the life stuff that got in the way. And he relapsed with his addictions, and that's a shame. I mean, you can't help that. And the problem I have is just the bitter way that it ended. It didn't seem like that ownership was willing to help. They were just kind of like, well, get this guy off my team. And so that was frustrating. Justin Upton, I thought, was a good signing. At least I will say it was a good trade. Justin Upton being traded and coming over here was great, because since Hamilton, we needed a left fielder, and we had guys like Matt Joyce and Shane Victorino and all these other guys out there, Ben Revere, and all these randos who used to be good out there in left field. And so Upton solidified that position for a while. I just think the contract was too long. I think that, and if you didn't expect him to be a streaky and hot hitter the way that he was, then, I mean, that's kind of been his entire career. So, So I think both of those are not great deals. Obviously.
If they figured out how to have him hit leadoff, that probably would have solved the whole problem, right? When he batted leadoff, he was great. All right. How about Jay Weave? There's our Jay Weave reference. 5 years, $85 million.
Let me tell you why Jared Weaver is my favorite Angel of all time. And it's because when he signed the new deal that he got with the Angels, he could have gone anywhere. He could have gotten trillions of dollars from the Yankees or any of the teams that were willing to spend. They would have had him in a heartbeat. And he stayed with the Angels and said, how much money do I need? I want to take care of my family for the rest of my life. That's all that I want to do. And that won me over. The day that he signed that deal and said that. So it was a great deal. Obviously, he was not the Weave that we came to know as he came up through our system and through his rookie years, and then carrying through his early years. Toward the end, about 2016 is when you started to see that fastball stay below 90, never got up to 88. You know what I mean? But he figured out how to manage. But it was sad to see him go, and he hasn't really gotten the recognition that I think that he deserves. He needs to come back and sign a 1-year deal and retire as an Angel, because if they don't, they are doing him a disservice.
All right, here's the one that we've been waiting for. CJ Wilson, 5 years, $77.5 million.
Good deal. I'm taking this deal every day, Howie. Deal. A lot of people lump CJ Wilson in with the Pujols contract, so their bitter feelings toward Albert Pujols are lumped in with the CJ Wilson contract. But let me tell you some of his stats. Let me show you. Let's see. How about 17-7 wins and losses? 2013 was a terrible year for the Halos, except for CJ Wilson. 17-7. Man, he had pitched 212 innings that season. And I just don't think that anybody would complain about a guy who can go out there and stay healthy and pitch in 33 games the way that he did. In
fact, would take that in a heartbeat right now, wouldn't we?
He pitched 34 games in 2012, 31 in 2014, 21 in 2015. Now, he didn't pitch. He was supposed to be on the 2016 team, but he didn't finish out the contract. I mean, he was still paid, but he had that shoulder issue. He had some issues through his career. And I know that not every game was a superstar outing with him. I know that there were some games where he struggled, but I'm looking at his stats: a 3.83 ERA, 3.39 ERA, 2014, which is surprising. He went 13-10 and had a 4.51 ERA, but that was obviously the playoff years.
Yeah.
So this guy is just not a bad deal any way you look at it. He pitched a ton of innings, over 200 in the first 2 seasons he pitched, and nearly 200 in 2014. So I just he was an all-star in 2012. That was another thing. So
that's right.
I just think that if people lump this in with Pujols and think that it was a bad deal, I mean, that contract was super affordable, especially when you compare it to these days when it comes to how much these pitchers are getting paid. I know that it was a good deal for him back in 2011 when he signed it and joined us in 2012. But man, I just think that if you look at CJ Wilson's stats and you really dive into it, he's a guy that you would take on this roster in 2022 any day of the week, in my opinion.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now make the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft your second listen. The first picks of the mock draft have been made, and you can search Ultimate NBA Mock Draft right now, and you get insight from 50 insiders, sports experts, and draft experts from Locked On NBA. The 5-episode Ultimate NBA Mock Draft is underway, and you should check it out today.
All right, if there's any Royals and Angels that we missed, or perhaps you have some opinions about these big contracts since 2010 that the Angels have dished out, get in our mentions on Twitter by adding us at Locked On Angels or connecting with Mike and I on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
All right, all this contract talk has stirred up something in us, and so we're going to look at the guys we actually signed this year, and we'll ask this question. Are we glad that they're on the team? That's coming up tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
I like that conversation. I'm looking forward to it. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
And we'll see you right back here tomorrow for more Locked On Angels.